I remember when I was a little boy sitting in Catholic school, the deacon taught us all about the circles of hell, each one more terrible and tortuous than the last. I was so worried about going to hell that I went to church every Sunday after that. But hell isn't just some place in a book. For me and several others, it's a claustrophobic elevator that is surrounded by an otherworldly entity. This being, monster, or whatever you want to call it, is circling us. The way a predator plays with its wounded prey, I'm certain of this now as I sit in a nightmarish elevator alongside two people that I once called strangers, Chloe and Phil. Nick is gone. I'm going to try my best to transcribe what happened to him. At some point after we tried to open the hatch on the roof, I woke up with the worst headache ever. The others were all trying their best to recover as well, coughing and wheezing, all of us feeling the effects of the mist that clouded our lungs. I looked up at the open hole where the hatch dangled freely, taunting us with an exit that we couldn't reach. I could see the railings of the elevator that winded upward into a bright light, but there was no telling how far down we were. Now that there are only 4 of us, we don't have enough height to reach the hatch. No means of escape anymore, I realize. I can't help but to call out to Sydney. I hope against the odds that she made it up and is above us somewhere. Please keep climbing. I shouted. Who are you yelling at? A voice to my left asks. Nick is more alert now. He is resting on the floor with the door at his back. The bruises from where Phil and I attempted to interrogate him are more prominent, and I feel a twist in my gut for what I did to him, but only partially because I still don't fully trust him. Sydney, maybe she made it to the lobby. Maybe we can get out of here. I told him. They call me Private Size, and rubs his crushed hand. It's clear the shock has worn off and now he is in excruciating pain. And who exactly is Sydney? He asks. That unsettling feeling I've had in my gut starts to return, and I look at him. I search his face for any signs that he is lying, but like before, it's clear he has no memory of her. I try my best to jog his memory. She was a nurse. She set your hand and helped Phil with his burns. I said, turning to the maintenance man. He is beginning to wake up as well, looking like he has aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I think I remember her, Chloe admits as she stands up and massages her back. Her hair is a mess and there is blood on her clothes. All of us look like we are on death's door. Eli must be telling the truth because I don't have any medical experience and I don't think anyone else here does. So how else could I have healed? Phil asked. But none of us have a recollection of her face, I realize as I massage my own head. I can remember her name still, but the fact that the other details are missing terrifies me. Before this Sydney disappeared, you said that there was another woman here too. Chloe tells me. I suddenly realize that I don't remember her at all. But I can see in Chloe's face that she is truthful. My phone. I've been taking notes of everything. Trying to keep my sanity, it has details of what has happened to us. I said as I reached into my pocket and pulled it out, but the phone is dead. I believe you, but I don't think I can remember. We have been here too long, and that mist, whatever it was, must have clouded our minds. Chloe comments. All of us are silent for a very tense moment as we consider what the implications are. No one is brave enough to voice it, not at first. But when the tension is clearly at a boiling point, Nick laughs. It echoes throughout the elevator, sending in an easy chill down my spine. What's so amusing? Phil asks irritably. I was just thinking of this local ghost story. It kinda correlated with our predicament. He said. I slumped down and crossed my arms. I'm tired, but we have nothing else to do to pass the time, so I prompt him to tell us. It will get our minds off this hell. I tell him. Nick shrugs and tells the story. There's a building nearby, an old boarded-up escape room. People say that a group of teenagers locked themselves in the building and then they killed each other. That's the official story, but there were other versions that circled the internet which claimed supernatural forces were at work, magic that was forbidden, which sealed them inside. And that the room itself was alive and devoured them one by one. All of us say nothing as their feels sucked out of the room, and he continues. The room had become sentient and could see their darkest fears, their deepest desires. And it realized that only way out, that only salvation that anyone has that will free any of us from suffering, was death. His words fell with a sickening fury as I realized what he was implying. That's a stupid story. You might be ready to die, but no one else is, I said as I looked toward the gun. He could lunge for it if he really wanted to, even though he was still tied down. All I'm suggesting is that we be given the dignity to choose how we end things. Nick said, no one actually gets to have that choice. I think it's fate that I'm the one here with a gun to give us that chance. No one is going to agree to that, Phil said. I have my kids. I have to try to get out of here, Chloe said, her lips trembling. Nick laughed again. When are you going to stop fooling yourself and realize that you will never see them again? He gestured his crushed hand around the tiny space we were trapped in. This is all that's left, a pit of darkness where we will rot away and be forgotten by everyone and everything, Nick told us. My mind is spiraling as I look at the gun. Was he right? Were we delaying the inevitable? It's fate that I'm here. Because I was planning on dying today anyway, Nick says, a disturbing truth taking shape. The rest of us give uncomfortable looks at each other. This gun, it was for you. That's the secret you've been keeping, Phil guesses. Nick is silent again. I told you before that it doesn't matter. None of this matters, he finally says. I felt awful as I realized that he wanted us to hate him earlier because it gave him some excuse for whatever reason he hated himself, and the food and the supplies. Were you going to camp out here until you could get the courage to pull the trigger? I asked. Before he gets a chance to answer, we feel the elevator buckle again. Everyone is freezing, panicking. We look up to the open hatch, frightened that the monster could easily reach in to snatch us out. Instead, the power comes on and suddenly the elevator doors open. Before we can realize what is happening, Nick fumbles backward into the open void. I jumped and grabbed at his legs before he was completely gone, wrapping my arms around him as I peer out to the endless chasm below. I feel a dizzy and sickening sensation cover me as I realize that the elevator is just barely hanging on to the exterior of the long, empty shaft. If it drops again, we may plummet forever. None of that I can focus on as I struggle to pull Nick back into the elevator. Phil and Chloe help me and we manage to finally get him back into the small room. We hear the monster somewhere below us and I panic to try and get the door closed. Untie me, Nick tells the others. Chloe listens to him and he reaches for the gun, turning it toward the open door as the scales of the monster return. It is rushing past at lightning speed and we can't see where the beast begins or ends. The entire elevator feels like it is being crushed and he aims the gun at the beast and waits for it to open its mouth, shooting it straight its ghastly bowels. The beast shrieks and the elevator groans and I pray to God that we don't fall, but God doesn't listen. The machinery groans and the elevator slides down the side of the empty shaft at dizzying speeds. I feel myself slam against the ceiling. Chloe reaches for my hand as we feel the elevator speeding up. It is like a thrill ride from hell and we don't know when it will end. I can't tell you how long we actually fell. I think I blacked out a few times as the levels sped by. All I could feel was agony and pain. Then at last we slammed against the floor. The bottom of the elevator cracks apart and buckles. Parts of the wall bend. My head hits the wall, but somehow I remain conscious as I try to move toward the door. I confirm that we have officially reached the bottom. It reminds me of a grave with bones and flesh scattered everywhere, and I can't help wondering if this is where the beast nests. There is nothing else to see except the long, tall shaft above us. Somehow I am shocked to see that the railing of the elevator is still holding, but I have no confidence it will do anything anymore. I stumble inside the elevator and slump against the wall, my body aching and my mind shattered. Everything Nick just said feels like a grim reality. But amid the chaos, I notice that Phil is using his tools on the damaged electrical panel that flung open. The slam against the floor has completely messed up the walls of the elevator, revealing the emergency wiring behind the frame. You're wasting your time, Nick argues as he sits up and we watch the maintenance men work on the connections. Shut up, it's better than doing nothing. The maintenance man snaps back. I offered a solution already, Nick said as he waved his gun around. Put that thing away, I said frantically. I can't help that I've come to terms with what is going to happen to us, Nick said as he looked at the weapon. I deserve to die anyway, he whispered. Chloe has more patience than us and slides down alongside the soldier. Surely there is someone out there that still needs you, she said. I know what you're doing. You're wasting your time. You don't know anything about me or what I've done. I've hurt people. For all you know, I have killed people, he said. But you said it yourself, none of that matters anymore, Chloe argued. Nick doesn't respond. I don't know if her words are getting to him, but she keeps talking anyway. This is a chance for a clean slate, or a second chance. We can't give up now. There is still time. If we give up, we let that monster win, she says. He looks down at the ground, trying to not have a breakdown. Do you honestly believe that the world above us still cares at all? I have to believe something. Don't you believe in anything? She asks. Nick shakes his head and doesn't respond. Then the elevator shakes again, and I hear Phil shout excitedly. I think I've got it working. I turn to see that the elevator is actually rising again, and for the first time in days I feel a surge of hope fill my body. All of us stand up, even Nick. We are slowly beginning to ascend, and it feels like reason to celebrate. But it is short-lived. There is a spark from the electrical panel and fire bursts from the controls. As a result, the doors remain open as we continue upward. All of us feel a sense of dread again as Nick voices the obvious. Eventually we will collide with that thing. And then it will be game over. He says, we don't know that. Chloe whispers, but her voice is cracking. Nick shakes his head and cocks the gun, placing it against his head. I should have done this days ago, he declares. Please don't. What about the people who have already lost their lives? That woman, she sacrificed herself to save you, I stuttered. Then maybe I can buy all of you some time when the beastie gets close. Throw my corpse to its hungry jaws. Could give you an opportunity to slip by, he says. He passes his backpack to me and says, there's a few supplies left in there for all of you for maybe a few more days, and even a lightning charger for that phone of yours. My mouth feels dry. I thought you said